Hi friends, if you're looking forward to moving to Canada in 2024, 2025 and beyond, there is a little bit of bad news for you. I'm going to read out the recent press release by the government of Canada. These measures are put in place to reduce the number of international students coming into Canada. I'm going to explain every bit of the information so that you understand the disadvantages and advantages of these measures on international students. This new immigration rule will not particularly affect those currently studying in Canada. Nevertheless, I've always admonished that even though we all have our dream countries that we want to live in if given the opportunities, we should as well spread our tentacles to other countries when deciding on the country to move in or to advance our studies. As countries are beginning to tighten their immigration rules as a result of high influx of immigrants, which higher percentage come from international students. Late last year was the UK, now Canada. Who knows the next country? There are many take-home messages in these new measures on study permits, which I'm going to explain later so that you will decide if Canada is still for you or not. If you're watching me for the first time, I'm Kelechi. On this platform, I share international opportunities, including scholarships and jobs, and how to apply to these opportunities. So, if this is the kind of content you want to see, kindly click the subscribe button to join. Kindly pay attention while I read out the new immigration rule on international students coming into Canada. Canada to stabilize growth and decrease number of new international student permits issued to approximately 360,000 for 2024. International students enrich our communities and are critical part of Canadian social, cultural, and economic fabric. In recent years, the integrity of the international student system has been threatened. Some institutions have significantly increased their intakes to drive revenues, and more students have been arriving in Canada without the proper support they need to succeed. Rapid increases in the number of international students arriving in Canada also put pressure on housing, healthcare, and other services. You have heard their reason for putting these strict measures. As we work to better protect international students from bad actors and support sustainable population growth in Canada, the government is moving forward with measures to stabilize the number of international students in Canada. The Honorable Macmillan, Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship, announced today that the government of Canada will set an intake cap on international student permit applications to stabilize new growth for a period of 2 years. So this is kind of a temporary measure. They're going to wait for 2 years, then assess it, carry out some risk assessment, and ascertain if they're going to carry on with this new immigration rule on international students. For 2024, the cap is expected to result in approximately 360,000 approved study permits, a decrease of 35% from 2023. In the spirit of fairness, individual, provincial, and territorial caps have been established, weighted by population, which will result in much more significant decreases in provinces where the international student population has seen the most unsustainable growth. So what this means is that, many international students would want to go to popular provinces such as Ontario. So putting these measures in place would make some unpopular provinces to gain more international students than the popular ones that have recorded more intake of international students in recent years. Study permit renewals will not be impacted. That is why I said that students already studying in Canada, these measures will not really affect them. Those pursuing master's and doctoral degrees and elementary and secondary education are not included in the cap. The information is clear. Current study permit holders will not be affected. IRCC will allocate a portion of the cap to each province and territory, who would then distribute the allocation among their designated learning institutions. To implement the cap as of January 2024, every study permit application submitted to IRCC will also require an attestation letter from a province or territory. Provinces are expected to establish a process for issuing attestation letters to students by no later than March 31st, 2024. These temporary measures will be in place for 2 years, and the number of new study permit applications that will be accepted in 2025 will be reassessed at the end of this year. During this period, the government of Canada will continue to work with provinces and territories, designated learning institutions, and national education stakeholders on developing a sustainable path forward for international students, including finalizing a recognized institution framework, determining long-term sustainable levels of international students, and ensuring post-secondary institutions are able to provide adequate level of student housing. In order to better align the post-graduation work permit program, we are changing the eligibility criteria. So pay attention. This one has to do with post-graduation work permit. Starting September 1st, 2024, that is this year, international students who begin a study program that is part of a curriculum licensing arrangement will no longer be eligible for a post-graduation work permit upon graduation. Under curriculum licensing agreement, students physically attend a private college that has been licensed to deliver the curriculum of an associated public college. These programs have seen significant growth in attracting international students in recent years, though they have less oversight than public colleges, and they act as a loophole while with regards to post-graduation work permit eligibility. Graduates of master's and other short graduate level programs will soon be eligible to apply for a 3-year work permit under current criteria. The length of post-graduation work permit is based solely on the length of an individual study program, hindering master's graduates by limiting the amount of time they have to gain work experience and potentially transition to permanent residence. In the weeks ahead, open work permit will only be available to spouses of international students in master's and doctoral programs. That is to say that if you're applying or if you have applied on or gain admission to undertake a diploma or advanced diploma program in Canada, that means your spouse or your dependent will no longer be eligible for open work permits. That is, the spouses of international students in other levels of study, including undergraduate and college programs, will no longer be eligible. So the information is clear. The important measures announced today complement other recently announced reforms to the International Student Program. Taken together, they aim to ensure genuine students receive the support they require and have the resources they need for an enriching study experience in Canada, while at the same time stabilizing the overall number of students arriving and alleviating pressure on housing, healthcare, and other services in Canada. And these are the quick facts on these new measures. In the coming months, we will continue to work to provide clear pathways to permanent residence for students with in-demand skills and explore new measures to better transition international students to the labor force. So for this, you are highly advised to apply to courses in Canada that will gain you the in-demand skills, that is the skills highly needed in Canada labor force, particularly courses in health sector, tech, and agriculture. The department has introduced several measures recently to make sure the international student program works for incoming students as well as the country as a whole. On January 1st, 2024, the cost of living requirement for study permit applicants was updated to better reflect the true cost of living in Canada and help prevent student vulnerability and exploitation. This is to say that proof of fund will also increase because they have recently updated the cost of living requirement for study permit applicants, that is Canadian student visa applicant. Since December 1st, 2023, post-secondary DLIs have been required to confirm every letter of acceptance submitted by an applicant outside Canada directly with IRCC. This enhanced verification process protects prospective students from fraud and ensures that student permits are issued based only on genuine letters of acceptance. In 2024, we intend to implement targeted pilots aimed at helping underrepresented cohorts of international students pursue their studies in Canada. Here are the new developments you are to expect with these new measures or these new immigration rules. First, there will be more visa refusals than usual, particularly if your school is located in the provinces that have always recorded a higher number of international students. provinces such as Ontario, because this has been the heart of international students in the past 2 to 3 years. You could tender a strong and complete application and yet you'll be refused visa. This is a very sad development, I must tell you, but you can't question the government, even though we know that they recently brought in about 900,000 refugees from Ukraine. It is their country and they have every right to make it conducive for themselves. Secondly, this is the time you have to be careful using agent for your visa or admission applications. I won't go into details on this. You should know better the pros and cons of using agent for visa application. However, the good thing is that masters and PhD students are not really affected. However, don't rely on this as they might extend the restrictions. I'm not trying to be negative, but whenever immigration rule is involved, you should always have plan A and plan B because things can change within 24 hours. They can extend the restriction to these levels of studies in the future. Always have plan B. Always have a second country in mind. As you are applying to Canadian universities, also apply to other schools in other countries. However, do not lose hope. I will admonish you, act quickly because things can change within 24 hours. They can extend the restriction to these levels of studies in the future. Always have plan B. Always have a second country in mind.